Hi, and welcome to The Mill, a podcast by Mill & Co. We're an advertising collective specializing in strategy, creative ideation, and execution. I'm Rachel Ballatori, your host and the founder and CEO of Mill & Co. Today, we have a very special guest, Lydia de Martino, our director of strategy here at Mill & Co. Hey, Lyd, what's going on?
Hey, how's it going?
It's good. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course. I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful.
I wish we could be together, but...
Yeah, this virtual thing is, it is what it is, you know?
Yeah.
For all of our adoring fans and viewers, Lydia is an equal parts free spirit and rule follower. She's always identified as both a creative thinker and a business-forward leader. She brings over 10 years of advertising and marketing experience to the table with a strong focus on B2B strategic partnerships and execution. So happy to have Lydia here. Lydia and I have worked together for many years, and she's been working with me at Mill & Co. for coming up in a year now, which is crazy. Yeah.
Crazy how COVID brought us back together, and I'm so glad it did. There was a few things that we could say that this year brought us, and it definitely gave us some successes and wins together. So I'm excited to be here and be connecting again.
Yeah, same. So Lydia, as you know, Mill & Co. is built on a pretty simple premise, which is no good house is built without a blueprint. And therefore, we start every project with the blueprint phase, where we lay out the strategies, we look at data, insights, analytics, and we pull together a really nice, solid foundation for a brand to stand on, a brand story, and a brand positioning. So I wanted to talk to you and get your opinion on what steps do you feel are most critical when building a strong foundation before we even get creative on a project?
That's a great question. I thought about this a little bit, and I think sometimes as creative thinkers and doers, we sometimes want to just get to the creative, and we get really excited about, the ideation and creative exploration that's ahead of us. But it's in those moments that you really need to pause and you need to take a few steps back. And I think something that you and I have always talked about and agreed upon, and something that I've always ground my work in, is that data-driven insights. You really need to take a pause and dig in with your clients and look at what are their business objectives for the year? What do they want to achieve? What channels are they looking to do that through? And how can we help get them there? And a lot of the times, people and creatives especially, we want to go off of feeling. I feel this, it's my intuition. But we need to take a pause and we need to think about what are the facts. So facts over feelings is a lot of the times what I like to think of when I'm at that strategic beginning process.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a lot of times clients just get very eager to jump into, we just need this done. But then it gets done and it doesn't perform. And they're stuck there wondering what's going on. Why isn't this working for me? This should be working. Well, it's not if you don't take the time to dig and take a look under the hood and assess what actually is broken and what can work better.
Exactly, yeah. And a lot of the times, too, once you do those exploration and insight sessions with your clients on the upfront, they do find value in what you're uncovering. And a lot of the times, there's team members that might be speaking to each other that normally aren't in a room together. And they are bringing insight to the table that's equally important to them. And both are trying to achieve the same business goal for that year. So how do we bring those all together? How do we make it all make sense? And I think that's probably one of the key takeaways from that discovery session. It's like really digging into the why and what they want to do,
Absolutely. I mean, I cannot stress it enough to every client I speak to, even clients that are like, we've done some strategy. We just need execution. Even with execution, we should still be reevaluating strategy at every point. I want to throw a marketing buzz phrase at you, informed creative ideation. Tell us what that means to you and why it's important and how you go about approaching that.
So I think that kind of comes back to what I was saying a little bit earlier. It's the facts versus the feelings. And so when you lead with the insights and you lead with data to inform your creative, you're going to come out with more purposeful creative. It's not pretty for the sake of being pretty, it's purposeful creative. And I think that that's something that we always want to take away from this. And especially for clients across all different industries. I mean, yes, consumer facing products, there's a little bit more of that beauty that comes with the creative. But with B2B, you always want to remember we need to drive leads most of the time, right? So how do we get there? And that purpose-driven creative is how you can get to those results and really drive leads. I mean, I've been hearing it nonstop this year. I'm sure you have too, but driving leads is at the forefront of both consumer-facing and business-facing work. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I want to switch gears just slightly. You know, when Mill & Co. goes through our process of the blueprint phase, the final deliverable of that phase is what we call, as you know, our 360 channel plan. I'd love if you could talk to our viewers about what that channel plan means, what channels are, what we mean when we say channels, and why it's important to outline those prior to getting into any execution.
Yeah, I think what we call 360 is what some others might call an omni-channel approach. And so when we zoom out and we think about what the channels are at their basis, these are things like trade media, digital media, websites, landing pages, SEO, SEM, social media, media in general, TV, radio, et cetera. So those are all your different channels. And when we get to our 360 planning phase when we get to the 360 channel plan at the end of the discovery phase, what we're really showing our clients is how are all of our channels talking to each other, and how is the content really going to speak and work across all our different channels for the main business objectives and goals that we worked on in the discovery phase. So it's really that circling.
Yeah, well, and thinking too about your audience segment and your audience profiles, and how does it differ across those different channels? Is it the same?
Always.
Is the audience that you're reaching on these channels the audience you thought you would be reaching, the audience you want to be reaching? It's such a simple question that just requires a little bit of time to look into, that a lot of clients overlook, because I think that we're in a time where everything moves quickly and some people can be impatient. But we've seen time and time again when our strategy pays off for clients when it moves into execution.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great point, especially when thinking of audience segmentation. When we drill down into social media, which has been a hot focus during the pandemic because the world is digital, your Facebook audience and how they use Facebook as a platform is much different than how they use LinkedIn. So your content has to be different on those two channels, but they may both be leading to the same website. So that's why thinking of your channels in that 360 approach really is important. And I realize I'm using a lot of hands. I'm Italian. I can't help it. Sorry.
I just want all of our viewers to know that I have been desperately clamping my hands together on the table so as to not use them frantically when I'm speaking. Next up on Two Italian Women Bitch About Marketing. Well, Lydia, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, a pleasure. For more information about The Mill, to learn more about what Lydia is up to, you can check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Otherwise, tune in soon for the next episode of The Mill. Thanks so much, Lydia.
Thanks.